Good afternoon, Wrestling Inc. Get up, get going. Welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily. It's me, your managing editor of WrestlingInc.com, joined here this Tuesday, not by Issa. Our Tuesday takeover has been derailed. Returning from Monday's show, my Monday co-host back for more action. Unfortunately, Issa's plane was canceled or delayed. I don't know. There's some drama there. But Michael Wiseman back in the house. Michael, welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily.
Thank you, Nick. This is if I recall, the most important Wrestling Inc. Daily of the year because it is the Wrestling Inc. after the Raw, after Mania, after the NXT, after WrestleMania SmackDown, after the WrestleMania Raw, after last week's Wrestling Inc. Daily before WrestleMania week. There you go. Yeah. Woo! Good to be back.
Wow, you started off yesterday's show with a little Steiner math, and I think you started off today's show with a little Steiner math. Like, I was not a good logic student in college. I thought it would be easy because I suck with numbers. And I was like, words, you're better with words. Mm-hmm. Logic is not as easy as it sounds, but we're not going to go down that rabbit hole here today. We have a lot to get to. It was a big Monday Night Raw last night. We're going to talk about that and more here in the news block. Later on, after the news, you're going to hear the full audio from Tony Khan's Ring of Honor Supercard Media Scrum. Now, as an apology once again yesterday, Michael, I don't know that you know this or not. I said we were going to have the Cody audio from his scrum yesterday. There's something about the file. I don't want to get into this.
Okay.
I can't figure it out. It works fine on our YouTube channel, but I am unable to get the audio for whatever reason, and so it was scrubbed from yesterday. You can go find it on our YouTube channel. I feel awful about that. I really wanted to include it here. If I can figure out how to get that audio, I'm going to put it in an episode as a bonus. I might even release it as its own thing because of how much it now emotionally means to me to get this out in audio form, but whatever.
You just change the extension, right? You just go .mp3 instead of .mp4 at the end, and it fixes
Michael,
it.
I'm going to throw you out this window right now. I'm going to come to your home and throw you out a window if this begins because I'm not going to. Okay, I don't want to talk about the audio anymore. Upset me. I know the Tony audio will be here because I made sure it worked and I have it, so I've got it. Be an easy fix. So that one. No worries. We're gonna play Tony Khan later. We're gonna talk about the news here in a bit. We'll dive in the mailbag at the end of the show as we always do. We're gonna talk about Cody Rhodes, his future on screen in WWE. A little murky right now. But before we get all to the news and stuff, a reminder: the chat room is open. Hop in Facebook like our buddy Rick Plott here. You can also let me pull up the right thing here. You can also be like Andrew Cormos. Good afternoon. Just got my ticket for Monday Night Raw next week, live my backyard in Detroit, Little Caesars Arena. Hope it's a good show. I hope it's a good show. Little Caesars, that's a fine pizza product right there. They're not going to give you a bad wrestling product anymore. You know?
$5 pizza, $5 wrestling. You just sign right up there on the dotted line, you know?
We're going to take a pretzel and a bacon and a cheddar cheese and jalapeno, and we're going to put it in your crust. We're going to feed it to you backwards.
They do that Batman pizza now, like the one that looks like the Batman signal, and I wonder how they do that. It's magic.
I think you're referring to the calzone, and yes, it is a thing. So be like like Bruce over in YouTube. You could be like Rick over on Facebook. Lee Nickel here. I'm really dreading next week's edition of Raw, he says over on Facebook.
Don't tell Andrew. Please don't tell Andrew.
We're just going to cut it up there, right? So, hey, it seems like everybody wants to talk about Raw. Let's talk about Raw. It's time for news you can use. News that'll leave a bruise. Cody opened the show. Him and Seth Rollins, they shook hands. After the show was over, in the dark match main event for the live fans, Cody Rhodes defeated Kevin Owens, who we'll talk about later. Went about 6 minutes. He won with the Crossroads. After the match, he took to the mic, said a few words, wished everyone good night. There was a spot during the dark match where Owens did the Young Bucks pose over Rhodes, and the Young Bucks have changed their Twitter bio as they want to do to What Up Kev. So, more importantly, the statement right out of Mania, the first thing you see on Raw is Cody Rhodes with his AEW entrance. How did you feel? that opening segment, the most anticipated segment of the year, came across on Monday Night Raw.
Well, his little head popped up there. They didn't time the production quite right on that. He was coming up to the ramp, and then they had like the ramp on top of the ramp. So all I can say is Cody Rhodes has come back with all of the power if they're building multiple ramps for his literal and figurative stairway to success here.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great opening segment. And you mentioned opening up Monday Night Raw with Cody Rhodes, which kind of says, yes, Vince McMahon and company believe in him. But also, I believe his YouTube video has gotten maybe close to 3 million views already. Just huge moment. And I know it's divisive among certain segments of the wrestling population, what he said last night. But I thought he did exactly what he needed to do. He went out there and proved he could get the crowd behind him. He went out there and got that energy from them. And then he told a story. He told a story that was a classic WWE babyface story. I'm doing it for my dad. I'm here to win the big one. Nobody's going to stand in my way. And I think it played to the right people backstage with the way he delivered it. So I thought it was a home run.
Yeah, I thought it felt really good. The Rollins moment was interesting. It kind of left the door open to maybe more with these two. I mean, we've really only kind of gotten a taste, right? But also something else, maybe something else down the road. Maybe they get together. I don't really know. We don't really know the direction of Cody right now. We don't really know the direction of a lot of people. We know the direction of some. Some it's very, very obvious going into Backlash, but others it's a little murky. Cody's a little murky, and then Roman Reigns ends the show with a promo. Don't really have a definitive direction about exactly what's next for Reigns. Brock Lesnar did not appear on the show, but that was your bookends there for Monday Night Raw. Open with Cody, and you close with Roman Reigns just being Reigns. And again, this is why I kind of hated what happened at Mania. A, it wasn't great. B, the finish was a little flat. But C, I'm back to just Roman being Roman, and I'm a little bored with Roman being Roman.
Well, there were reports out yesterday that they were kind of trying to decide what would open, what would close, and it seemed like maybe they're going back and forth on Cody Roman for a hot minute there. That Roman Reigns segment makes a lot more sense to open the show.
Yeah.
It does not make sense as what you're building towards. No. I can only imagine Vince knew they were going up against the NCAA March Madness championship game last night, which did happen. The final half was taking place at the 11 o'clock hour. So maybe that's why they flipped it so they get all eyes on Cody. But if you inverted those and you build towards Cody all night, that show plays a lot different.
Yeah, it really would have, And if you look at the top of the show, last night, by the way, was according to Showbuzz Daily and WrestleNomics, the most watched episode of Raw since like January of 2021. So well over a year since they've seen the kind of viewership they saw last night. Overall up, I think still a little down in the demos or whatever. You can go parse it out. Raja's got all written up, Raja Mark. I thought it was very interesting to see how it played because it was kind of a steady decline, 1, 2, 3, right to the end. But Cody drew really big for them at the top. And the other thing that drew surprisingly large when you look at the quarter-hour breakdowns, I'll move the run sheet around here a little bit. Ezekiel, the former Elias, his segment with Kevin Owens, and that was also the same segment. That was the same quarter-hour where Veer Mahan debuted, laying out the Mysterios. That was the most watched quarter hour of the entire Raw. More than Cody, more than Roman. Ezekiel and Veer drew big for Monday Night Raw.
So I do want to correct something. I said it wrong. Cody Rhodes' return to WrestleMania is sitting at 3 million views. His segment from last night was only at 1.5 million views right now, it seems like, and USA has another 500,000. So he's about 2 million from last night's segment. So just a correction there. But, I mean, number one, I think it proves Cody Rhodes is a needle mover if he's already there's obviously the overrun from WrestleMania, people tuning in to see what happened, but people tune in and they're checking on Cody Rhodes. I think the other segments you cut off were more about the curiosity about what's happening here, right? I don't know that I read this and say, man, that new Ezekiel character is really, people are like, and I think it's just a real nature of that segment that made people like kind of doing a double take, like, wait, is WWE being serious here? How did this play if I didn't watch it live? Like, it's just a weird, yeah. So it's a weird segment.
So for people that aren't aware of what happened with Ezekiel, aka Elias, last night, Elias returned to Raw. Now he's clean shaven, new look. Kevin Owens was out there. He's talking about the Steve Austin match. And then out of nowhere, after he's ranting about the Steve Austin match, Elias comes out, but he's no longer Elias. He introduced himself as Ezekiel, the younger brother of Elias, which confused Owens. It confused everyone. But he insisted. He was talking. Owens said he was talking to Elias. The former Elias reiterated, no, I'm his younger brother. Owens ended up marching out of the ring. No physical confrontation. I don't believe there was any physical confrontation later in the show between these two either. Ezekiel watched Owens head to the back with a smirk on the face, and that was the end of the segment. Ezekiel, for what it's worth, has officially taken over the former Elias's Twitter account, saying, hey, guys, since Elias is gone, I'm going to take over his Twitter. I'm his younger brother, Ezekiel.
Are they ribbing us right now? Is this part of a joke? It reminds me a little bit of whenever they replaced Diesel and Scott Razor Ramon back in the day. And like, are we supposed to be in on it with Kevin Owens because they called attention to it? Or are we supposed to like be real dumb wrestling fans like, oh, well, I guess we're going to believe this is a new character. I like the idea of Elias coming out as like a new version of himself. Maybe we spin it off in another month and he's Elaine or whoever, right, with another name, and we tweak the character month by month. What I don't like is this new Ezekiel supposedly being better than the classic Elias.
Yeah, look, they wanted to repackage the guy. He looks different without the beard. I'll say that, but this is a real insult to the intelligence. It's certainly, again, I don't know if it's tongue in cheek. I don't really know where they're going with this. Owens threatened the guy, but then didn't even seem to care enough about him to follow through on the threat. Just kind of walked right past him. I thought it was weird. It was like a train wreck. I couldn't look away. I don't know what they're gonna do with this Ezekiel fellow. I don't know. It felt weird. Veer, on the other hand, coming out laying out the Mysterios, he looked like a badass. Veer was over. I thought Veer had a very imposing debut on Monday Night Raw.
They've been teasing this dude since back in October, I believe it's stats out there. And you've got months and months and months of this monster build. I know he's been wrestling on Main Event or whatever it was, but having him come out on Monday Night Raw and attack a legend and the Mysterios being in there, I think it's a great introduction. My concern is I'm worried, and too early to tell, right? But I'm worried they don't have a grasp on Veer Mahaan as a character. And I'll tell you what I want from Veer Mahaan.
Whoa.
I think that the monster persona is great, but I like the pictures he shared backstage of him in the suit, texting on his phone. This idea of a monster who suits up to go live his life and then comes in the ring and is an absolute beast. Like, he's super intelligent, right? He's out there. He's got his deals going on. He's a businessman. He comes in there and beats the crap out of somebody. That's interesting to me. Veer Mahaan, without that, is just another Omos or whoever else, another monster we're going to get to because Vince McMahon likes big guys.
Yeah, and we'll see. He has done a great job, you're right, of making his social presence different than the kind of hollow 2D presentation we've got on TV. Omos this past weekend, he went out and he rapped Jay-Z at Wale Mania, and it was just a great bit of business. If you haven't seen that video yet, I would highly check it out. I wish we saw more of that from Omos. I wish we saw more of that personality from Omos. It's almost like, these guys get given what they're on TV, and they don't want to veer too hard, but on socials. Veer just played around and playing into it. I think you're right. I think it did wonders for him. The crowd was there for him. And unlike Ezekiel, I feel like Veer, good debut. I think the Mysterio stuff is not done. But Ezekiel, I kind of felt like the Owens stuff, maybe a one and done. Owens himself did not care about this guy. So that's why I put the Veer debut over the Ezekiel debut.
Well, you look at what Cody Rhodes did last night. I know we're going to talk about what's next for Cody Rhodes, but I'm going to reveal my hand a little bit. You look at what Cody Rhodes did last night. You look at what's happening right now with Kevin Owens, and it really did feel like last night that Kevin Owens was kind of coming out there. A lot of these were kind of table setting moves. We're not going to tell you what's next, but we're going to tell you that these guys are kind of reaffirming themselves after WrestleMania. Kevin Owens was just out there to get his heat back. That's all that was about well, I didn't need the win anyway. Let me go do that. Let's do this little funny segment with Ezekiel, and I can insult him and be the kind of more badass person here. I think we're kind of maybe heading towards, you got to feed somebody to Cody Rhodes if he is going to be a big baby face, and you need to fight him with a heel. We saw it happen in the dark match. Kevin Owens, Cody Rhodes makes a hell of a lot of sense to me right now because it's a big enough name for Cody Rhodes to sink his teeth into. And Kevin Owens gets something interesting. It's a new matchup for him. It's something interesting for his character to do as well. So we'll see. But just a lot of table setting and we'll see what happens next week with these guys.
Well, we'll circle back to Cody here in the mailbag, but I got to bring up Terry Allen Jr. here, super chat, saying the Court of the Sinners. That could be Edge's new group name. Edge and Damian Priest, of course, celebrated their new alliance on Raw. Fightful saying WWE looking to expand this group. The creative has pitched additional names, maybe Rhea Ripley. gets to be part of this group. Obviously, some tension teased there with Liv Morgan, I felt last night on Raw, so who knows? And AEW's Brody King, he tweeted out the following. Brody, you win the day. Most traffic post the past 24 hours. And it was Brody King right after WrestleMania. He just tweeted out, when you order House of Black on wish.com. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. And now that I see the whole presentation of Edge in this new direction, this dark Icelandic Viking fellow does feel a lot like the House of Black, man. I don't know that that's a coincidence. I think you might be onto something.
I mean, yeah, maybe. But also we've had gothic groups and dark groups and all of these kind of things for forever in pro wrestling. I mean, even going back to the Brood, and they were kind of this dark gothic group of the 90s version of it. So I get it. I'm not quite as harsh on Brody King here as everybody else has been piling on. Like, how could you insult a legend like Edge? But I think for me, more importantly, it is a different thing for Edge to be leading a faction. And I find that interesting. And I think for Damian Priest, it seems like we finally are getting a turn in his character. I think for the last year, they wanted him to be this big baby face. He had this big moment last year at WrestleMania. And this idea of Damian Priest in a suit, in a dark persona, I'm kind of into the new Damian Priest in a way that I was not into the old Damian Priest.
Yeah, no, I love the pairing. I'm all about it. Like, I think it's going to be a good faction. I think Edge as the leader is great. I think Priest is his first disciple is great. I'm just saying that, like, in wrestling, there's very rarely coincidences.
That's
and, you look over at what Malachi Black is doing over at AEW, you go, that's freaking awesome. Let's do that. Like, I don't think that, I'm not saying he ripped him off, but maybe loosely inspired in the background, something of that ilk. Well, also over on Raw, Bron Breakker defeated Dolph Ziggler to retain the NXT title. Now, or I'm sorry, not retain, reclaim the NXT title. PWInsider.com, for what it's worth, they're also saying Rick Steiner, the new Hall of Famer, scheduled to be on tonight's post Stand and Deliver edition of NXT. We didn't run it on the site just because it seemed more like speculation than news, but Brian Alvarez was talking about how he had heard or got the vibe over the weekend that Dolph was going to hang on to the title for a while, and then Braun was going to go to the main roster. Then this kind of happened last second. He even pointed to a commercial during Raw after Braun's title win that referred to him, suffering the loss of the new NXT champion Ziggler. So little weird continuity thing that's not very normal for WWE. But I will say I do agree with Brian in that regard. Feels like something happened here. Feels like a change of direction last second, Michael.
It does. And you think about baby faces on Raw, and I don't want to read too much into this and make a lot of extrapolation, but I will anyway. You think about baby faces on Raw, and it felt like for a minute, I thought Bron Breakker coming up to the main roster, we're moving full steam ahead with this dude. Maybe some of those baby faces slots have been kind of picked out now. Maybe Cody Rhodes is in a different position, and we feel confident that he's going to be the big baby face moving forward. Roman Reigns, we don't know what's next for him, but I can assume it's Drew McIntyre. But it's weird to me though, because you and I talked about this yesterday. Dolph Ziggler on NXT makes a lot of sense, both for his character and where he is right now, but also to work with the new up and comers down there. So we'll see what happens here, I guess. But it just Bron Breakker thought he was going to the main roster. It feels like he's going to simmer down in NXT for maybe a few more months.
All right. Well, here's what I'm going to do, Mike. All right. I'm going to bring up this. This is the interview I did with Bron WrestleMania weekend, right? It's cool. We could do these things. I always forget.
No, it's awesome. The future.
So I only bring this up because I did this on Friday morning. I won't play the whole thing. You can watch it over on YouTube. We'll play a little bit of it here. You're pretty quickly going to get what I'm saying. But Bron was very nice. He was a very nice man. We actually had a very humorous moment with Imperium that's over in the Imperium video. But in this interview, he seemed a little pensive to me. He didn't really want to talk. And it was really surprising to me. And he struck me as somebody that had a lot on his mind. Okay. And so I'm going to throw this. He's going to give a couple quick answers, and you'll, I think, maybe get an idea of the tone. Tell me if you think I'm overanalyzing. All right.
This is Friday or this is Saturday, Friday?
This is Friday. This is Friday at 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. Okay. All right, here we go.
My guest at this time is WWE NXT superstar. He's going to be taking on Dolph Ziggler to reclaim his WWE or hopefully reclaim his WWE NXT championship. It's Stand and Deliver. It's Bron Breakker. Bron, thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh, man. Thank you for having me, man.
Where's your head at here as you are on the eve of not just getting a title shot, but also it's the afternoon before your dad and your uncle are going to go into the Hall of Fame as well. Really big weekend for the Steiner family.
Man, I'm excited. I'm excited for them, man. This is really cool experience, and we get to experience all this together. My first WrestleMania weekend as a performer, man. It's so cool.
Yeah, for sure. Are you as surprised as many people seem to be that Scott in particular is going to be going into the Hall of Fame? Obviously, seemed like there were some rough waters over the years between the company and Scott.
Man, Scotty's excited, man. My dad's excited. We're all excited, man. We're so thankful to be a part of WWE, and they get to have this experience and close, the last chapter on their career and go into the highest prestige you can accomplish, WWE Hall of Fame, man. So cool.
Yeah, what does your dad think about the rocket ride you're on now, man? I'm sure that this has got to be some really.
All right, I won't play this anymore.
This
has gone on too long. I think I was overanalyzing it in live, but he seemed like he had something on his mind.
Yeah, he seems reserved. Like he doesn't seem. He seems distracted, and maybe it's because he was up late. That was the day they were.
I thought it was an up late night thing too, but then this all booking out played last night, and I'm questioning everything again, Michael. It was fog of war. I was like, was this man being told? Like, oh, your booking's going to be changing. I don't know.
I guess my question for you, Nick, would be, do you think what happened last night? Some people look at it this way. He won back the NXT title on the biggest Monday Night Raw audience since January of 2021. Or do we look at it as, well, he's going to spend more time in NXT and it's a step back? Is it a step forward or a step back, do you think?
Yeah. I think it seems like a lateral move to me. He did not seem like, I guess the energy from that interview did not scream to me a guy who was like on the brink of coming to the main roster.
Yeah.
Right. It just didn't feel like that to me. And then I thought I was making things up because then I saw a takeover. He retained, or he lost he didn't win the title back. And I was like, well, you know what? Maybe I'm misreading the signals here, Nick, but then he got it. So to me, it seems like a lateral move. And I don't know, man. If like they're telling you you're going to get making that big money, you're going to the main roster, and at the last second it doesn't happen. I don't know that I'd be thrilled. I don't.
Well, it almost feels like too maybe the Steiner induction to the Hall of Fame is changing things. I know Hall of Famer Rick Steiner has been scheduled to be at tonight's NXT, right?
Yeah.
So does that change things up? And
I see X Pizza Wings here saying they have to wait for Cody's shine to fade before bringing Steiner up. And Pizza Wings, I thought something very, very similar. I thought to myself, like, it's kind of like the AEW problem that Cody had, right? Where like Cody was like, but wait, I'm supposed to be getting the big push. And then Punk and Danielson and all these guys come in and Adam Cole, and all of a sudden it's a crowded picture and you get kind of pushed aside a little bit. I wonder if that's not a little bit. I think there's a little truth to that. Yeah.
Could be. I mean, the babyface side of things, the heel side of things to me is thinner right now than the babyface side of things. Kevin Owens coming into his own. Roman Reigns has been there for a while, but we got Drew, we got Cody, we got all these guys kind of ready to take on, Yeah.
Well, I thought Lashley was going to be pivoting pretty quickly to the main event picture after beating Omos, but this program is not over. It is not. We are not done. Omos now aligned with MVP, who fired Lashley because of budget cuts. Hilarious. And now Lashley Omos will continue on. Your thoughts on what happened here, which played out?
It played out fine, and I think it's going to be good for Omos to have a mouthpiece. I was thinking the same thing with Gable Steveson over the weekend. Like, he needs a mouthpiece, right? You get these guys in here who have the look and they don't have the verbal acumen to take on that role yet. Give them somebody like an MVP. But it disappoints me because Lashley and MVP were such a great pairing, and Lashley is amazing, but also promo work has never been his best work. So let's see how it plays out. I think it could be good for Omos. And we'll see. I'm coy on it. I agree. Lashley MVP, what a great pairing. But Omos, he can't stand on his own either. He needs a Bobby Heenan. He needs somebody by his side. And AJ Styles did that for over a year. And he wasn't just his manager. He was also his friend and his tag team partner. And it looks like MVP might be doing that too. I thought that the drive-by kick was a strong indication that this is not just going to be the same thing we saw with Lashley. I think that MVP is going to be working more actively as a competitor alongside Omos. Well, whether it's Omos, whether it's whoever else, I'm just most excited to see that MVP is still getting this role moving forward. I was worried after the Hurt business, he was going to be shuffled to the side. And since he's been back, he has added so much in so many different ways. MVP is an all-star, and this role will be great for him and Omos.
Well, if you're a Jerry Lawler fan, our last Raw news item here is all for you because Jerry's returning to the booth. He confirmed on Raw Talk that he's going to be doing commentary for the next few weeks while Corey Graves goes on his honeymoon with Carmella, who is, of course, no longer with her tag team partner, Queen Zelina Vega, after last night. Whew, a lot of moving pieces there. Jerry Lawler back in the booth.
Good for him. Nothing against Jerry Lawler. He's a legend. He deserves it. I kind of wish we would use this as a chance to integrate some new blood, right? I think, to me, that's the better move here. Although I was thinking over the weekend, man, Jim Ross, Jerry Lawler calling that Kevin Owens match would have just been a little extra slice of heaven. But I get it. I think new talent is what you should be developing right now, and that would be a great spot for them to try it out for a few weeks and see how it goes.
All right, lastly here, there was a backstage exit that happened here in the last 24 hours. As WWE producer Pat Buck has announced he is leaving WWE. He's no longer going to be in his producer's role. He put out a note on social media essentially saying he felt like he had accomplished everything he wanted to in the role. He produced and agented 2 WrestleMania matches that he was very proud of, and Pat will go back to teaching and crafting the next generation on the independent scene outside of the WWE bubble.
I mean, man, this guy did it. And we talk a lot about wrestlers achieving their goal at WrestleMania. The producers, the writers, everybody else getting to see this whole thing play out. They all get to achieve their dreams. They may not be pro wrestlers, but for a producer like Pat Buck, he's producing at the highest stage of the game. I understand wanting to go out on top, and I think it's really cool, but also think it's cool. He needs some work-life balance. We're all reevaluating that right now coming out of this pandemic. Go spend time with your family. That's what's important. And I totally understand and respect that. So, but also Pat Buck taking with him a wealth of knowledge, would not be surprised to see him, I'm not going to say AEW, but show up again in an independent promotion somewhere in the not too distant future.
All right. Well, hey, Michael, I want to thank you for joining me at the top of the show, talk all the news of the day. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, keeping the comment section very lively here today. Joey Madrano here, for what it's worth, saying, good God, Graves is annoying every week talking about Carmella. He gets paid to do that.
He gets paid to make out with Carmella on live TV.
His job is to do that annoying thing that you hate. That's his job. And I know you hate it, but I guess Vince loves it. So, and hey, I know, Joe, you're such a big Corey Graves fan. I'm gonna give you a gift, Joey. Tomorrow on the show, I'm going to air the full audio from my Corey Graves interview from the WrestleMania media junket. And we went like 10 minutes. It was one of my longer junket interviews.
That's awesome.
I decided to name drop his brother. I was like, I know your brother. I called some of his wrestling matches. Let's talk about it. So he stuck around. So we're going to bring Corey Graves tomorrow, Joey, just for you, buddy. And thank you, thank you, Ring of Honor, for doing that Supercard media scrum with Tony Khan. Very happy to have brought that audio to you. A lot of very interesting stuff covered there. All right, let's dive into the mailbag here to wrap the show up. I asked everybody, now that Cody's back, who should his first WWE feud be with? Now that he's back, I listed 3 names in an other section, and this is a horse race, Michael. We have about 350 votes here. 34.3 to Kevin Owens. 33.4 said keep going with Seth Rollins. I'm not done. 28.3 say step up to Roman Reigns, and only 4% to literally everybody else. We had a write-in for Sami Zayn from Mike Coolidge. Ciampa we had from Jaybird here. Interesting write-in there. Yeah, wow. So your thoughts on the results of the poll and who you want to see Cody feud with?
I love the idea that he's going to be the guy to take on Roman Reigns at some point in the future and maybe dethrone him for one of those titles. I think it's fantastic, and you want to strike while the iron is hot. I get that. But I think you save that for a big stage. If ratings are any indication, I think it tells Vince McMahon, you can put this guy on a marquee. He's going to sell tickets. He's going to draw buzz, right? So to me, it's not about Roman Reigns. I think we'll get there if everything plays out the way we hope it will. But in the meantime, do we go back to Seth Rollins? That could be fun, but it seems like maybe they're on good terms after last night. That match was amazing. My money, though, Kevin Owens is the right transition feud for Cody Rhodes right now. Kevin Owens is a strong heel coming out of that rivalry with Stone Cold Steve Austin. He can cut a great promo, and I think it's going to keep Cody Rhodes' fire alive to go up against a main eventer in Kevin Owens, who is different than Seth Rollins, who I feel like is becoming more of a babyface by the day.
Now, here's a follow, and I think you're right. I see a lot of positives with Kevin Owens, and obviously, just by a hair here, most of our voters agree with you. But is Cody at a Raw superstar? Has he been added to a roster page yet?
I don't know without checking, but I feel like I heard over the weekend he was.
Let's see. Let's WWE. I haven't checked. Let's go to the WWE roster. He should be listed, right? Cody Rhodes, WWE. He is not listed on a brand.
Well, this is the problem. We didn't talk about this much earlier, but like the way the rosters are kind of being used overlapping for Super Show formats, it really does hurt that you need Cody Rhodes, Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins heading up Raw. You got, Baron Corbin, Roman Reigns, Drew McIntyre on SmackDown. Delineating does help, but we'll see.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just think it's weird here because, like, I'm going to the other superstars page here. Let's click on Roman. Is Roman? Yeah, he's SmackDown. So Cody's he's a free agent right now. And so I think that we see Cody on SmackDown on Friday. My gut says I don't think he's tied to Raw. If he was tied to Raw, they just said Cody is on Raw now, right? And I think Kevin Owens is great. It would be a little weird to do the Ezekiel stuff and just walk on unless you're really just trying to bury this guy. And if that's what they're trying to do, to just make a joke of Elias, Ezekiel, some footnote, whatever, right? I mean, truthfully, we've seen people debut worse and do better. So we'll see.
It's true.
But I think we see Cody back on SmackDown. And look, Cody left the door open. What am I doing next? Roman left the door open. What am I doing next? They bookended that show with Cody and Roman, and you can press them together this Friday night on SmackDown after the formalities were done and gotten out of the way over on Monday Night Raw land.
Yeah, but are you saying we pivot to WrestleMania Backlash being, and God, I hate that I said WrestleMania Backlash there, but the next pay-per-view being Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns? Are we doing that right out the
Very
gate?
possibly, yeah. Why not? Why the hell wouldn't you do it right now? Brock Lesnar wasn't around on Monday Night Raw.
Are you going to switch one of the titles?
I don't know, Michael. Maybe both. I don't know. Sure. Why not? Because he could beat Roman for the Raw title and go back, and then you could get your Kevin Owens program. Sure. Yeah. That's fine. You could double back like that. I actually really like Mike Coolidge's write-in for Sami Zayn, who's about as over as anybody right now after the Jackass match, which, again, was I showed that to Liz, by the way, because we did the show yesterday, and then I sat on the couch editing the show, and Liz watched the Jackass match. Her exact quote to me after the Jackass match was, "That has to be the greatest WrestleMania match of all time," right? I said, "I love you so much. I'm going to marry you. We're going to get married. We are." Because of comments like that, I love her so much. She's right. I'm right. She's right. And so Sami Zayn coming out to confront and have a game program with Cody Rhodes. Sami Zayn could have a program with Dwayne Gill right now to be the most entertaining thing on SmackDown. I wouldn't care. That's all I'm saying. So if Cody shows up on SmackDown, because I think he's a free agent, I think he's going to want to do it all this week, I think it's either Roman or Zayn. I think those are both good picks.
What was the turning point in your career, Sami Zayn? Well, it was the Jackass match I did at WrestleMania 38.
Greatest match of all time.
If there was we need the poster, like the WrestleMania poster, and it's just got your Nick Hausman, greatest match of all time.
The best part about watching it back was A, it was just great, and B, it was like knowing what spots were to come, and she didn't know, and knowing she was going to pop, and she did. It was great. Anyway, I think I'm not ready for Rollins. I want to let Rollins simmer, and that's it. That's all I've got. Here we go. Antonio Green, Cody winning the IC or US title be good for the match, but. Dude, like you said, strike while the iron's hot. People love Cody. People want to root for Cody. People want to boo Roman. Let's get to it, man. Right?
Put a main event picture could use a fresh face like Cody Rhodes, who fans are behind.
All right. Well, hey, that's going to bring us to the end of the show here today. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to follow through on what I promised you, Joey. We're getting Corey Graves tomorrow. Me and Corey, 10 minutes in the tank, talking live sex celebration, talking his brother, talking his in-ring future. You guys are going to love it.
Those first two topics are not related.
No, they're not going to be intertwined. They are separate topics. Wrestling Inc. Daily on whatever podcast platform you want. Support WrestlingInc.com and come back here tonight after NXT for the Wrestling Inc. podcast. Michael, what do you want to put over here to wrap up the show today?
Thanks for having me back on a Tuesday, Nick. I enjoy the hell out of this. I am on Twitter at @TheRealWiseman, more famous for Julius Pringles than I am pro wrestling now, but happy to talk either one with you all. So please give me a follow there.
Wonderful. And I am at Nick _Hausman over on Twitter. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I'll talk to you tomorrow. And remember, if you winked, you didn't miss it.